Hi everyone, it's Christian Butzek, Realtor here in Vancouver. The topic of today's video is a river of costly mistakes. The 9 most common I see sellers make, and you won't after you watch this video. And just before we get into this video, I want you to know that some of these mistakes are invisible, meaning mistakes in judgment. You don't even realize you're doing this to yourself. And so with a real estate agent like myself, I'm obviously guiding my clients through the process so the decision making is solid. Let's go ahead and jump into them. The very first and most common mistake I see sellers make, and this one hurts the most because it leads to regret. Regret because sometimes you see someone leave $30,000 or $40,000 on the table. And what it is it's too soon. What I mean by that is imagine, let me paint the picture here for you. You list your home on a Monday, you have the first showing on a Thursday, and by chance, the very first group falls in love with your place and they bring you an offer and it's close to the listing price. Wow, what could be better? What do? Some sellers will say, oh, it's too soon. And you know what? That's actually one of the biggest mistakes you can make. Sometimes the first offer is actually the best. And I can tell you this because I recently had this situation. We really had to coach our client through this so that she did take the offer. Because what too commonly happens is the sellers will say no to that first offer, and then they wait 3.5 weeks. The next one comes in, and it's $40,000 lower. Now what do? So very important, always treat that very first offer with respect and go with it. And just to draw an analogy for you, imagine you were in your department at work, you're hiring for a position, you decide to interview 10 candidates in the next 2.5 weeks. The first one you sit down to and get face-to-face with turns out to be a great individual, good character, good skills, everything. And you decide to go through and hire the rest. And then you say, God, that first person was really, really good. And you call him back 2.5 weeks later, and he's taken a job. He's already hired. And that's kind of the way it works in real estate too. Sometimes you just get lucky. The first group's the best. So treat that first offer with respect. That's the big one. Number 2, cheaping out on staging. And this is another one that really surprises me. It's probably the easiest way to make a lot of money. And that would be investing $3,000-$4,000 to have a professional stager come in. Usually it's a company, and they come in with a consultation and they walk around your place and they basically show you what they can do with it. With paintings on the wall, new different furnishing, beautiful rugs in the living room. It creates an emotional appeal. And I'll tell you, we sold a condo in Yaletown. It was a 2-bedroom with a den over on Richards. And I think we got a little under 1.2 million. This is in the August of 2018. The very next year, the condo just above went on the market. And it sold for $180,000 less. Everything was the same. Same floor plan, same view, everything identical. The condition inside was very similar, except one big difference. And that was, we had it staged, and well, of course, I was the realtor on the one downstairs, so I recommended to my client that he move out his furniture and he get it professionally staged, painted, etc. But the unit just above didn't do any of that. They sold it like an empty shell, and they got a price just according to that. Presentation sells in real estate. Take it seriously. I implore you to. Number 3, using active listings to price your home. This is a mistake in judgment. And this is a Canadian thing. Not an American thing, because in the US, a lot of sellers now have access to sold data online. In Canada, we still have pretty strict privacy laws, and as of yet, here in BC, you don't yet have access to sold listings. But it's pretty easy to get. Your realtor will share this with you. Anytime I go in for a listing appointment, a home evaluation, I always bring the solds, around the block, up in the building, around the street with me. And I just share that with my clients so they know, right? You have to know these things. But here in Canada, and especially in Vancouver, a lot of people might see that, their neighbors upstairs have listed the home at $950. And actually, they listed at $950, but what did they sell at? That's the real question. And then when we dig through the final sales number, they sold for $820. Right? So they were asking $950, they got $820. That's a huge difference. And so the mistake in judgment sellers make there is they get their hopes really high, and then when they realize, actually the value of my unit's a lot less than I really thought. So that's a really important one, and that's sort of kind of one you kind of have to adjust your own mental approach for. The fourth mistake that I see is sellers not just doing the cosmetics. Cosmetics are easy. Cosmetics, it just means painting, a fresh coat of paint before you decide to sell your home or your condo. Very easy to do. It's the cheapest thing you can do, and it brings a huge reward. Earlier in June, we had listed a home. The simple recommendation I made to my seller, I said, well, two things. One, paint it. Two, clean it. Have it look, you want to eat off the floors. And you know what? Just by doing this, we literally got $30,000 to $40,000 more than I even felt the market should bring for that unit. That's a big return on a $1,200 paint job, right? You get $30,000 for a $1,200 paint job. That's huge. So you just want to do that. Fifth mistake that I see sellers make is overvaluing their renovations. And the way this normally works is a seller has done a renovation, maybe they've done the kitchen, the bathroom, and they start to attach numbers to those renos. They say, I did a kitchen, it cost me 60 grand, so I should get back 60 or maybe even more than that. Unfortunately, it doesn't work that way. Whatever you spend on the renovation, it may not have the same appeal to a buyer. A buyer might only be willing to pay half of that $60,000 for that renovation. The way I saw this turn out in a townhouse over close to City Hall here in Vancouver was the seller we actually had it listed, and the seller was just very keen on a specific number because she had spent a lot of money on her kitchen. Not much on anything else, just the kitchen, imported Himalayan salt block for the black splash in the kitchen. It looked wonderful, but buyers just aren't willing to pay an extra couple of $100,000 for that. So you got to really be honest with yourself and have that honest conversation with your real estate agent and ask the question. Here's the renos I've done: new floors, new kitchen, new bathroom. What do you think it's worth to the market today? That's a question to ask. Number 6 mistake I see is in condos and townhouses, sellers not aware of building conditions. So best example I have for you here is a couple of years ago, I had a client who was trying to sell a leasehold in False Creek. If you're in the Vancouver area, you know that the city owns these or has these leasehold properties. And so leaseholds are not as valuable as freeholds. And in that particular building, I think they were looking at about a $4 million envelope project. That's a huge amount of money for a building with 55 units. I can't remember exactly how many units. You just do the math on that. That's a lot of money out of pocket. My client didn't know. She wasn't reading the strata documents, the condo docs. And so I literally went through hundreds of pages, printed them off, and read the key excerpts from the annual meetings so that she could understand. And once she got that, she realized, whoa, I was asking way too much money. And she just saved herself a lot of grief, a lot of time, because now she was well informed. Inform yourself on what's going on in your strata, any potential special levies that might be coming up that are going to come out of your pocket or out of the future owner's pocket, because they will look through the docs and they will know. Okay, number 7, biggest mistake is selling a property tenanted, especially with a bad tenant. The reason this matters is, you just imagine, right? Your tenant here in BC has a lot of rules. Tenants in BC here have a lot of say. They can restrict access to the unit. They can say you can only come into the unit once a week. They might say you can only come in between 10 and 11 in the morning on Sunday. Well, that's going to make it pretty hard for me to sell the unit. My best advice to you is, work something out with the tenant so that the unit is vacant. Again, fresh coat of paint, and you can get it sold that way. Maybe even have it staged. That's the way it works best. Sellers leave tens of thousands of dollars on the table because they're trying to sell the unit tenanted. And the best way to think about this is, you're not just selling your unit, you're actually selling your tenant too, because they come with the property. Think about it, right? If you were buying a company, right? You're not only buying a company, you're also buying the employees. You want to have good staff. You probably want to purchase a company, if it's bigger, if it was a big company, where there's not onerous labor contracts in place that tie your hands as the new owner, right? It's just the reality of it, right? You got to make money and survive in business. And if you have a great tenant, wonderful, but selling a property tenanted, it just tends not to work out. All right, so that's what you gotta think about that. No tenants. All right, number 8, the biggest mistake I see sellers make is timing the market. This is a mistake in judgment, and this mistake comes from the fact that they overvalued their unit. They thought maybe the unit was worth $950,000. It's really worth, maybe their home is really worth $900,000. And so now the sellers might say to themselves, well, that's not what we thought we could get, so let's wait 6 months, or let's wait a year until we can get $950,000. And I would say to you, I don't know what's going to happen next year. Next year might be the 2008 financial crisis. It might be COVID-19, right? Who knows? Nobody could have predicted these times. Nobody can predict what it's going to be like next year. Putting your life on hold to try to get extra money, I just don't see how that works out well. Better to ask yourself, what do you want to do right now? Like, do you want to take a new job in another part of the country? Do you want to get married, maybe have kids and upsize? I think answering those questions are so much more important and meaningful in life than trying to get an extra $20,000 or $30,000. That's just me. And also remember that when your property goes from $900,000 to $950,000, if you're upsizing, the property you might be trying to buy may have gone up by $100,000, right? So the math doesn't even work out for you that way. So very important. I think you shouldn't try to time the market. It's one of the biggest mistakes you can make. Number 9, time on the market. This is another one, and this is just one where sellers are not aware. The longer you're on the market, the more your home gets stigmatized. You're on the market 3-4 months. When buyers or buyer's agents are looking online, they are asking themselves, why hasn't someone bought it? What's wrong with it? How come it's still available? And so you don't want to kind of get into that no man's land. What I always think is sort of 1 month. If you've got a good list price, 1 month is usually enough to get it sold, and get it sold for the best amount. And that's sort of the paradox in real estate, is actually the quicker you sell it, the more money you tend to make. Strangely enough, you kind of really have to wrap your mind around that. So that would be number 9. Spending too much time on the market. You want to compress it. Well, you never want to go past 3 months. So We trust this has been of value to you. If you've had any of these types of experiences, feel free to leave your comments or questions below. Would love to hear from you. Hope this has been of value to you. And of course, feel free to give us a thumbs up. Thank you very much, and we'll see you next time.